Ukraine has stopped the transit of Russian gas through its territory after a contract with Moscow expired. The pipeline was one of the last routes delivering Russian gas to Europe, supplying Slovakia and also Hungary, two countries that have maintained close ties with Russia despite its invasion of Ukraine. Now, Kyiv had made it clear that it would not renew the deal in the interests of national security and as a way of dealing a blow to Moscow. But Russia says Ukraine has shot itself in the foot.
This is what it looks like on paper. Lots of zeros on today's spreadsheets, as Russia has not nominated any gas flows through Ukrainian pipelines to Europe. And this is what it looks like out in the field. The pressure gauge stands at zero, no gas flowing here. It's not a surprise development, though. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky last made his position clear in recent EU talks. We will not continue the transit of Russian gas. We will not give them the opportunity to earn additional billions on our blood. Any country in the world that could receive something cheap from Russia, in the end, tomorrow, in a month, in a year, will become dependent on the Russian Federation. This is their policy. That's why we won't transit Russian gas anymore. The Ukrainian army currently controls the Russian town of Suriya, the entry to the pipeline. This message was sent early on New Year's Day. Greetings from the city of Suriya. The news is the following. The town is controlled by the armed forces of Ukraine. The town is calm. All buildings are intact. The strategic Gazprom facility in the city of Suriya is under the control of the 99th Mechanized Battalion of the 61st Brigade. Wishing everyone a peaceful sky. Turning off the spigot presents a title change for all involved. Ukraine is giving up some $800 million a year in fees from Russia, while Gazprom will lose close to $5 billion in gas sales to Europe. As for Europe, most EU countries haven't bought Russian gas since the war began. Hungary, Slovakia, the Czech Republic and Austria continue to receive Russian gas via the Turk Stream pipeline on the bed of the Black Sea. The halting of supplies via Ukraine is, however, a major blow to Moldova. The country says it can't replace Russian deliveries through Ukraine and will have to reduce its gas use by at least a third.
So let's hear more on the situation in Moldova from journalist Mircea Barbu. Welcome. How are people there reacting to this news? Does this mean that people won't be able to heat their homes?
Well, people received the news with a lot of worry last night, and obviously this morning when at 7 a.m. here in Moldova, the gas pipeline officially stopped. Most of the residents I spoke with in Moldova for the last couple of days since I've been here are quite concerned about this coming winter, which is getting colder and colder every day, but also on the long-term future and Moldova's energy independence. While the authorities in Chisinau claim that they've stocked up on enough gas to last them throughout this winter, the main problem for Moldovans remains the electric energy, the electric supply, which is linked to the Transnistrian side. As you probably know, this is the so-called separatist region, not recognized by any other country in the world, including Russia. The main supply of energy comes from Tiraspol into Moldova's mainland.
Now, the Moldovan Prime Minister, Mircea, has accused Russia of using energy cuts as a geopolitical weapon to try to destabilize the country. Put this into perspective for us, though. Russia is, of course, losing a lot of gas revenue right now. So who is the bigger loser in this situation?
Well, from the ground here, it seems that both Moldova and Russia are losing in this game. It's just a matter of who's losing more or who can last or outgame the other part involved in this energy crisis. While the Moldovan president accused, as you said, Russia of blackmailing Europe and Moldova in this into this crisis and creating an artificial humanitarian crisis. Russia, on the other hand, says that Moldova has not paid its debt to Gazprom, a debt that they claim it's about 800 million euros. That was the official reason for stopping the gas this morning. Now that debt has been audited by international companies, official auditing companies, and they concluded that it's nowhere near what Russia claims, and it's less than half of that, if that, while Moldovans are willing to pay about $8 million out of that debt. So it's a question of money, it's a question of pressure, but it's also a question of political will on both sides to agree and to negotiate a step further into solving this crisis, because the technical possibilities are yet here. Moldovans are willing to supply and to get Russian gas into Transnistria, which is the most affected area at the moment by this gas cut, as long as it comes through the Turkish pipelines under the Black Sea, and as long as Gazprom pays and the Transnistrians pay for that gas upfront.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. That is journalist Mircea Barbu in Moldova. For more, I'd like to welcome Suriya Jayanti, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and expert on energy policy. She's worked extensively with Ukraine's energy sector, both before and during the war. Thanks so much for taking the time today. Perhaps you can help clarify this for us. Who is the biggest loser in this situation? Is it Russia missing out on revenue or Europe?
I think actually what's going to happen is not a lot of fallout. There will be consequences on both sides. But at this point in the war and in the European reduction of its imports of Russian energy products, there really isn't a lot left. And so what we're seeing end today is approximately 15 billion cubic meters per year of transit. That's down from a height of 165, 170 BCM that Russia was importing into Europe before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And so there will be some financial loss on the Russian side, absolutely, and that's mostly because Russia has been unable to sell the excess gas to China, though despite desperately wanting to. But it won't be a huge financial hit for Ukraine because the bulk of the transit had already ended. It won't be a huge financial hit for Russia for the same reason. Europe will suffer some energy supply restrictions, and there will be a little bit of political turmoil and market turmoil as a consequence. But I think this is not going to end up being a big moment for either energy or geopolitics.
Now, one of the countries that's most worried here is Slovakia. Its Prime Minister, Robert Fico, has said that Ukraine not transiting this gas anymore is going to have a drastic impact, both on his country and also on Europe more widely. Is he right? And does the EU have a plan to keep those gas prices down?
So Slovakia in particular has pivoted in the last year under its new leadership into a much more pro-Russian political stance. So I think a fair portion of what we're seeing is the political posturing of a government that is looking to support Ukraine less and to have warmer relations with Moscow. It is nonetheless true, however, that Slovakia still imports 20% of its gas, 50% of its gas, which is 20% of its energy mix from Russia. And so that is a 10% energy mix hit that Slovakia is going to take. Russian gas is still flowing into Europe. It's just doing it, one, through Turkstream, or two, as LNG. And Europe has increased by about 20% its LNG imports from Russia since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And so, one, as those aren't sanctioned by the European Union, there's always the possibility that LNG imports increase further. That will be a bit difficult for Slovakia because the LNG terminals, for the most part, don't make that an easy transport option. But I think what we're seeing from Slovakia is mostly bluster at this point. The EU is quite well prepared for this winter. It does have quite a lot of gas in storage, mostly in Ukraine, which has 32 BCM of Europe's energy storage capacity, gas storage capacity. So I don't think this is going to be an immediate hit. And I think what we'll see is that Europe has the ability to prepare for next winter and continue its energy transition policies.
Well, thank you so much for joining us with those insights today. That's Suriya Jayanti, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council.